There are no fronts, you mean? There's no attacks en masse.
Everybody, there will be some, but if you take a look at the Syrian civil war, I've worked with people who are on the ground that have showed me their work. I did not go on the ground, although we tried. I actually tried getting a crew to go in. That's a crazy story. And so some of the people we worked with, in one instance, one of the circumstances, it was two guys with rifles hidden up in the back of a building in a standard market area, shooting people who walked by. They were a rebel faction that were attacking people deemed to be loyalists or government actors, agents, or otherwise. So they were in an area that was controlled by the enemy, and it was just two guys. And so you're walking down the street, you're going to the market, and then all of a sudden you hear bangs. You have no idea where they're coming from, and people are falling. And when I turn on the TV, and every few minutes they're reporting some kind of conflict, shooting, bombing, things like that, I'm not saying that we're in civil war. I'm saying that's what you can expect. If we were to enter one, it will not be battlefronts marching towards each other. They're not going to say, there's not going to be two groups that organize, Congress, internal, the People's Republic and the
They don't have
Liberty.
skirmishes, you mean? There's no skirmishes type of thing.
Skirmishes will happen. No. But it's not going to be the North and the South. That's not what civil wars look like. And Americans are plagued by our history into believing that's what a civil war is. But the issue was you had in the American Civil War sovereign states that were debating with each other, and those sovereign states had armies, and they could negotiate as power structures amongst each other. The factions already existed. In almost every single civil war ever, random factions emerge in various areas. Partisans, it's not a unified front in any meaningful way. That's like Syria, for instance, or Spain, or Russia. And so what we're likely to see now, after everything we've seen, and I'm going to stress this again, as I've said every time, the time travel test, I call it, go back 10 years and tell people where we are today. Someone will have shot the president in the head. Fortunately, by turning it, it would have only grazed his ear. Another man will have gone to his golf club, his golf course, aiming a rifle, trying to kill him. That trial ongoing now. That there would have been the January 6th, the storming of the Capitol, the riots, the protests, the George Floyd riots, the firebombing of St. John's Church and the White House, the January 6th committee, the arrest of Donald Trump, the prosecution of Donald Trump, the accusations of insurrection and sedition, etc., the 21 years in prison for the Proud Boys. If you went back 10 years, and every day this story gets crazier. If you went back 10 years and said, here's 10 years in the future, nobody would believe you. And the funny thing about it is, the proof is in that 6 months ago, I shouldn't say nobody believed me, but 6 months ago, people thought, I hope you're wrong, Tim. There are people that told me it couldn't happen. 2 years ago, they said, Tim's crazy. He's screaming civil war. And today, many of the general predictions that I made have happened, up to one of the worst moments I couldn't possibly imagine, that I didn't think was possible, but was implied in what we were discussing. And what I fear next, because I can see these videos that people are posting about Charlie, I can see the images they're making of him, the images that I am not going to share on this show, but are easily found on YouTube, where they are putting up these cartoon images of Charlie Kirk. It says, debate this, with blood spraying from his neck. They are reveling, gloating, and these are not bots. These are real people celebrating the murder of a man who was engaged in democracy as they claim to want. And here's what I fear, and I would tell people, cooler heads must prevail. Victory will come through the fact that Donald Trump was a friend of Charlie Kirk and is our president. Many members of Congress were friends with Charlie Kirk and are in control, though it's slim. And there are many prominent liberals who are terrified of what it means to be on the wrong side of this. Some of them crying on their shows today. With that being said, my fear is that there are many people who are inspired by Charlie Kirk who feel like they have nothing to lose because they are young men with no jobs, no wives, no girlfriends, no prospects. And they watched Charlie's content. He had millions of followers. They went to his events. And what will that person who looked up to Charlie feel when they see some guy with 15 million views on X posting that he's happy, posting that he would have done it himself given the opportunity, and posting that he will do it again. There are people that are making videos saying there's more to come, and they're posting lists of names. My fear is that there's way too many people, as Rudyard Lynch has pointed out, that are young, listless men that feel they have no purpose, who have just been pointed in a dangerous direction.
I mean, that's the thing, is we know what could come next. I mean, we don't know the specifics, but we know there's gonna be a lot of bloodshed potentially. And that's the horrifying thing. And that's why it's so frustrating seeing so many, especially Republicans, like tone police throw inside and say, guys, no, we need peace and unity right now. And it's like, they just shot Charlie Kirk. We want, like Phil is saying, we want the feds to break this, to nip this in the bud, because we know the future we're heading down. We know what road we're heading down. And there's no peace and unity with people that want to kill you for having vaguely conservative takes.
That is an important point. What I am calling for is the federal government to do what it is there to do. Find the terrorists that will do this to other conservatives and put them in jail.
That's why I'm saying I'm not so much worried about right-wing men, listless young men who might have looked up to Charlie Kirk, being radicalized into considering violence from this. I think it's actually something that's just going to embolden people on the left to commit more acts of violence. And still, even now, the people who are being tone policed by their own side are still only calling for justice through the proper channels because they're good people, because they have scruples and they have morals.
Because TOS violations, Mary.
Which TOS violation?
Well, we can't say we're limited to what we can or cannot say here, and also it's irresponsible to call for things that are illegal. So
even beyond,
I don't want to be.
Is that the only reason why you're?
I don't want to be the guy
federal government to do.
I don't want to be the guy that's responsible for being like, oh, go take things in for your own hand. Like
I
I'm
don't
not
think that people should do that.
So well,
genuinely,
okay.
Don't.
Well, I think Kirk.
Do you?
No.
I don't have much faith in the FBI personally. So, I mean, them taking the reins, we saw some bad side of them in the last few years. Things got out of hand. You know, I don't know what to say. I don't know who to say would be better, but I just don't know if that's the way. You know?
I don't think there's any other way out besides the federal intervention, quite frankly.
The federal government must, but the outcome to that equation is kindergarten arithmetic. The only solution that we have before us is law enforcement. But when you are in a country that has a bifurcated culture where, as Stephen Marsh put it, they can't even agree on a 31-year-old man murdered in cold blood in broad daylight in front of his family, when Donald Trump says, we cannot live like this, and we will have law enforcement against domestic terrorism, each and every one of you know what their response is going to be. I don't need to say it.
Right.
Who wants to say what they're going to respond with?
They're going to up the ante even more.
They're going to say, this is exactly what we predicted. Trump is a tyrant, and this is how fascism begins.
Yeah.
They're going to say, and this is how democracy dies, to thunderous applause. And they're going to call themselves the heroes. They're going to call themselves the Jedi. Whatever fictional Harry Potter reference they can make, they'll make. And then they will go to scared old people who watch CNN. As CNN, let me show you this. When CNN covered the story about the transgender and Antifa ideology on the weapons, they omitted that information and called it cultural issues.
Yeah.
Then Seth Moulton went on CNN and said 74% or some number of violence comes from the right and only 4% from the left, which is a fake, made-up statistic. And the CNN viewers are sitting there saying, yes, this was a one random thing, but the right's really the problem. When Donald Trump responds by saying, we will not tolerate seditious violence, murder, assassinations, the CNN viewer is primed for the progressive to go to them and say, see, we warned you. And that's what we predicted last year. I don't see any other path forward for Trump, because what we were saying is use law enforcement as legally empowered to do. Arrest people who break the law. But that is always seen by these people as fascism or some slight against them. Let me pull this up real quick. We have this on Google. Yesterday, I should say throughout the month, Civil War had a moderate search volume. I can zoom in a little bit more. And of course, it now has maximum search volume. So this is a relative search number. 100 means it can't be higher. That relative to where Civil War was searched for before, this is maximum search load. It was around 50 on average. It's from 0 to 100. Yesterday was 73. It is now at 100. Media is writing about it, claiming Donald Trump is pushing it to win the midterms, as we showed you with that Common Dreams article. Mother Jones is claiming Jan 6ers are preparing for civil war. Stephen Marsh, who wrote the book The Next Civil War, is published in The Independent, saying, this is exactly what we've warned you about, and we've never been closer. There are a lot of people, prominent personalities, that are going to say, stop, no, and don't talk about it. The unfortunate reality is, as Google proves here, everyone is talking about it. Whether anyone wants to admit it, the conversation has been happening across social media. Yesterday, I think the most common word saw on YouTube was the word war. And I saw people getting pissed off, conservatives saying, stop saying that. But you can't tell people what to comment. I looked at the comments of some of these progressive YouTubers. War, just every other word. Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.